The potential delivery of US-made Tomahawk cruise missiles to Ukraine, framed as a conditional threat to coerce Russia into peace negotiations, represents a critical juncture in the ongoing conflict. US President Donald Trump publicly warned that he would consider providing these powerful long-range weapons if Moscow refused to settle the war soon, shifting the administration's previous rhetoric toward a significantly tougher stance on Russian aggression. This ultimatum has immediately drawn extreme concern from the Kremlin, which views the prospect as a new level of escalation that risks directly damaging US-Russia relations. The issue moves beyond simple military aid. It functions as a potent strategic tool designed to increase pressure on Russian President Vladimir Putin by jeopardizing Russia's military sanctuary and forcing a reevaluation of its war calculus. Analysis and reasons for the conditional threat. The Tomahawk Land Attack Missile, TLAM, is a highly capable, precision-guided weapon with an estimated range of up to 2,500 kilometers, far exceeding the reach of current Ukrainian systems like the ATAK-MS, which has a maximum range of around 500 kilometers. Providing this weapon would fundamentally alter Ukraine's deep strike capacity. The underlying reason for issuing this conditional threat appears twofold: strategic leverage and growing frustration with the stalled conflict. Strategically, the Tomahawk threat is an attempt to create a credible deterrent, or a pain point, strong enough to compel Russia to seriously engage in peace talks. By holding the possibility of striking targets deep inside Russian territory, including logistics hubs, airfields, and crucial defense production facilities that are currently safe, the US aims to eliminate the geographical sanctuary Russia has enjoyed in its rear areas. Furthermore, the decision reflects a broader frustration within Washington regarding Russia's continued refusal to halt its attacks, particularly its relentless targeting of Ukraine's energy infrastructure ahead of winter. Consequences: military and political escalation. The consequences of this move, even as a threat, are immediate and multi-layered. Militarily, the introduction of Tomahawks would provide Ukraine with the ability to target high-value assets across Russia, including air bases from which strategic bombers launch and centralized command centers. This would force Russia to divert significant resources to bolster air defenses across a much wider area, potentially drawing assets away from the front lines in Ukraine. The sheer scale and precision of a Tomahawk strike would represent a far greater challenge to Russian air defense than the current, smaller payload drone attacks. Politically, the primary consequence is a severe elevation of tensions between Moscow and Washington. Russian officials have explicitly warned that the deployment of Tomahawks, which typically require complex targeting data that may necessitate American involvement, would mark a qualitatively new stage of escalation. This heightens the risk of unintended direct confrontation or a further hardening of Russia's rhetoric, possibly leading to reciprocal threats against Western assets or allies. Challenges and feasibility. Despite the strong rhetoric, the actual delivery of Tomahawks faces practical challenges. For one, a U.S. official previously noted that current inventories are heavily committed to the U.S. Navy and other uses, potentially making large-scale, immediate transfers unfeasible. Furthermore, Tomahawk missiles are historically launched from ships or submarines, meaning Ukraine would require the integration of a land-based launcher system, such as the newly developed Typhon system, which adds complexity and time to any potential deployment. Finally, any delivery would likely come with strict targeting restrictions imposed by the US to mitigate the risk of striking deep within Russia or causing civilian casualties, a common practice with previously supplied weapons. Russia is concurrently attempting to undermine the threat by claiming that the weapon system, while potent, would ultimately not change the overall situation on the battlefield. Prediction and solutions. The most likely near-term prediction is that the Tomahawk threat will be primarily utilized as a bargaining chip rather than being immediately executed. The threat itself already achieves the political objective of signaling serious intent to Russia and increasing psychological pressure on the Kremlin to enter meaningful negotiations. It allows the US to approach the negotiating table from a stronger position. If Russia continues its campaign targeting critical Ukrainian infrastructure without compromise, the probability of some form of long-range deep strike capability transfer, perhaps involving European allies or alternative systems like longer-range ATAC-MS, increases significantly. Russia is predicted to react with increased aerial strikes on Ukraine to demonstrate resolve, and may renew its thinly veiled nuclear signaling. Effective solutions to manage this precarious situation require a combination of strength and de-escalation pathways. First, the US and its allies must establish clear red lines and diplomatic off-ramps for Russia, defining what acceptable peace terms look like and what specific Russian actions would trigger the weapons delivery. This maintains pressure while offering an alternative to escalation. Second, a coordinated effort with European partners is crucial, encouraging them to supply other long-range systems or increase defense production to ease the pressure on US inventories. Finally, sustained diplomatic efforts should focus on immediate cessation of hostilities targeting civilian energy infrastructure, linking any future US-Russia engagement directly to this requirement, thus demonstrating that the cost of prolonged war is escalating for Moscow.